All right, good morning. It is July 8th, 2025, and we are in the Habits of Health book. We are in the second half of 1.3 on page 80 in the original writing. So, problem solving versus desired outcome. Let's say you have two choices. You can think in terms of trying to fix your bad health, a problem or orientation, or shift your focus to creating health, an outcome orientation. Most diet books fail to understand the difference between a problem-oriented motivation and an outcome-oriented motivation. The first is about solving a problem, like being unhealthily overweight. The second involves creating a desired state, like being optimally healthy. In the first, you're motivated to take action to get rid of a problem. In the second, you're motivated to take action to bring what you truly want into being. Changing our emphasis from what we're against to what we're for has a dramatic impact. Are we merely against something, or do we want to create an important result? Let's be clear. I'm not talking about positive thinking, but rather about the fundamental reason we act with no spin on it, positive or otherwise. Good morning, Christy. We're on page 81 of the HOH.
Good morning, thank you.
Researchers regularly report the success of certain diets, all the while warning that the subjects on these successful diets couldn't sustain weight loss for more than 2 years on average. And they always blame the diet itself for the long-term failing because they don't know any better. The one factor that's never named and which is almost universally ignored is that the dieter's motivation is usually a problem-solving, conflict-driven reaction to emotional anxiety. You could adopt the healthiest diet that ever existed, but if your motivation is fixed on a problem, you'll be back to your old tricks in 2 years or less with your weight back on and in worse shape than ever. No wonder so many people feel hopeless after trying time and time again to lose weight. They don't know why they can't pull it off. They don't know why they can't pull it off. They're sincere about wanting to lose the weight, and they know the stakes are high. As you'll learn in phase 1, choosing the right way to eat is one of the most critical factors in creating health. But how do you go about making this new approach a true transformational lifestyle change? Good morning, Raquel. We're on page 81 of the HOH. As vital as the right approach to eating may be, that alone isn't going to do it. And that's why reaching your healthy weight is only the beginning of our journey. The motivation factor is what makes all the difference between yo-yoing weight loss and creating optimal health by adopting healthy habits you can live with. That's why everything is simple, 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 simple. Sustainable, sustainable, sustainable. So you can succeed, succeed, succeed. So think back to the last time you unsuccessfully tried to lose weight. Remember how easily you reverted to your old eating habits once the pressure to change diminished. It's not unusual for someone who's spent months losing weight to celebrate their accomplishment by running to the local burger joint. Welcome to human nature. Soon enough, you're back to where you were before or worse. Study after study shows the negative impact of dieting once the diet's over. As you yo-yo from one diet to the next, you put yourself at a higher risk for cardiovascular disease, more weight gain, and a myriad of other problems. It's not your fault. You simply didn't know that your problem-solving motivation was your downfall all along. A teachable moment. So what do you do if you bought this book with the problem solving in mind? Don't worry, you're not doomed. Your starting point is where you begin, not where you finish. You can recalibrate your motivation right now. This is a teachable moment, and here's why it's possible. Number one, you're about to take a step forward. You've made the decision to begin losing weight, even if that first step is a reaction to the emotional conflict you feel. At least you're committed to getting healthier. We just need to keep you going in the right direction on the path to optimal health. Number two, you're open to allowing the change process to succeed. Until this moment, you didn't know how important motivation was, but now you can see the profound difference between avoiding bad stuff and supporting good stuff. With this new insight, you're able to make a major shift in your motivation and, as a result, dramatically improve your chances of success. Number three, you truly want a positive outcome. Sure, there are problems you'd like to solve and future problems you want to avoid, but even more, there's a life you want to build. Think of it this way, even if those problems disappeared tomorrow, you'd still want to have the life you desire, right? Imagine how your life will look once you've created optimal health for yourself. Optimal is the most desirable or favorable state possible. It's the perfect word for us. After all, we're all different. One person's optimal health might mean running a 4-minute mile or breaking the record for weightlifting. For someone else, optimal health might mean being able to play tennis or run a few miles every day. And for another, it might mean they can play with their grandchildren and live a healthy, normal life. Your optimal health profile, your personal best, is one of our most important goals, but it is not the only one. It all begins by shifting your motivation from being against bad things to be in favor of good things. This will align you with your values and what matters most to you on your journey to optimal health and well-being. I think this is one of the biggest reasons. And the way that I like to say it is I used to want to yo-yo. I hated myself to health. I hated myself until I got there, and then I was like, oh, I kind of like myself. And so I kind of went back to what I did before. And what Optavia has shifted, and this is just exactly where he teaches that, is I learned how to love myself to health. That was the shift. So, sidebar. To figure out how to reach optimal health, we have to look at where we are. The space between these 2 points creates the tension that motivates us to change. Structuring your success. Having goals is a good first step, but goals alone aren't enough. We need to position those goals within a structure that supports them. With the right structure, our chance of success goes up. With the wrong structure, our chance of success goes down. We need to know our starting point. If our goal is optimal health, our starting point is our current state of health. This is because having a realistic picture of where we are now helps us see the steps we need to take to get to where we want to be. The importance of structural tension. Over the last 15 years, I have lectured on the principles, and been a close personal colleague of Robert Fritz, best-selling author of The Path of Least Resistance, and many other important works that have changed the way we understand human motivation and the structure of change. Robert is a dear friend, and we collaborated for many years to help people create meaningful change in their lives. We have recently co-authored a book called Identity, which we feel debunks the myths of the importance of self-esteem in the life-building process. Robert describes how the difference between our desired state and our actual state create what he calls structural tension. It is as if we've stretched a bow and aimed the arrow. The tension in the bow makes reaching the target possible and even probable. It's the type of tension that helps us take action we need in order to get the results we want. In nature, all tension strives for resolution. So by establishing structural tension, we've created a powerful dynamic to help us achieve our goal. It's as if nature herself is on our side, and we find ourselves capable of working on behalf of our goals. Granted, our goals for optimal health aren't easy to accomplish. If they were, we'd have done it years ago. The fact that we've tried to reach these goals in the past and failed makes them even more daunting. However, with the right approach, within the right structure, we can change the pattern. So something that I like to see this is often the rubber band. And when you have, what you want and why you want it, and there's that resistance, and then pretty soon you get closer and closer to your goal. So we always need to figure out what's next, what's a little farther out to create that structure so that that rubber band is pulling us closer together. And then what's next? So when we get in optimal health, we never just want to try to be there. That's why we don't call it maintenance, because maintenance is stagnant. And seriously, we are always moving forward or we are always moving back. We call it optimization because we always need something we're striving for. We always need that tension, because if it's not that tension of striving forward, it's going to be the tension that's pulling us right back to where we were, to those old bad habits. There's going to be some kind of tension. We want to make that tension from the things that we want, not from the things that are dragging us back to who we were previously. So, tracking your progress. Where are you right now in relation to your goal? Remember, your current reality is constantly changing, so it needs to be regularly updated. The action you're taking right now have an impact on you can measure to see if you are making effective progress. If one of your goals is to weigh 140 pounds, how much do you weigh right now? Weigh yourself weekly to track your progress. If your goal is to fit into a tight pair of jeans, how close are you? Try them on every few days to find out. This is the millimeters that Dave teaches us about. That was really fun to just process that. Weigh yourself weekly, try them every few days. You may have other health goals, each one with its own current status. Maybe it's blood pressure, cholesterol, or blood sugar, or a goal for increased energy and stamina, which can be measured by how far you can walk, jog, or swim. Each of these is one part of your optimal health picture, and each one should be tracked and updated as you manage the relationship between your actual situation and your desired goal. We will take a look at your current and desired health and well-being in the next few parts and assess where you are in the key areas. Hopefully, you have started using your Lifebook and are documenting and progressing through the elements we are beginning to unpack. Sidebar, he has a micro habit of health, tiny m. Be honest with yourself. Honest is crucial to achieve your goals. So be clear on your goals and what you want to gain with your choices. So be honest with yourself. Honesty is crucial to achieving your goals. But what exactly do we mean by honesty? One aspect of honesty is being clear about your goals. We shouldn't lie to ourselves about what we want. Another is separating what we want from what we think is possible. Ooh, there's a big one. We need to describe our current reality both honestly and objectively. Most of us aren't trained to be as honest with ourselves as we need to be, but being honest is an important habit of health. And like any new habit, it takes practice. The more you do it, the more it becomes part of who you are. This is one area where a coach can help you understand your current reality and develop new habits. I'm going to do the sidebar. There's a great big sidebar. Is weight control harder for emotional eaters? In the previous edition of this book, I wrote about how learning better ways to cope with emotional eating may be one of the most important factors in overcoming obesity and enjoying a successful long-term weight loss. That thinking is supported by the study in the journal Obesity. Researchers at Miriam Hospital Weight Control and Diabetes Research Center compared a group of overweight individuals who reported eating due to internal factors like loneliness, self-comfort, or as a reward, to those motivated by eating by external factors such as a party or holiday gathering. The emotional eaters lost less weight over time and experienced more weight regain. New research published in Neuron has found that we are all prone to emotional eating. Researchers observed the brain of participants when forced to choose between healthy and unhealthy foods. When the participants were subjected to stress, the part of the brain responsible for self-control began to shut off, leading participants to value taste and gratification over health, even though this study was small and the findings are not surprising. Later in this book, you will learn how to overcome the challenge of emotional eating with mindfulness exercise. These help us to recognize the choices we make and eliminate the stressors that trigger our desire to give in to emotional eating in the first place. The power of choice. Choice means it's your call. You can do it or not, whatever it is. Choice is the power to make a decision. Now, if you just want one thing, making a choice is easy. But what happens when two things you want are in conflict with each other? Most of us never learn how to deal with this sort of conflict. In fact, most of the time, we're not even aware that the conflict exists. But the reality is that we face situations like this all the time. You want optimal health, and you also want to eat a banana split. Those two desires are mutually exclusive. You can't have both. You need to make a choice. But how? The overall principle is this: make the choice that supports the more important desire. Of course, that means you need to sort out which desire is most important. 3 types of choices. There are 3 distinct types of choices: primary, secondary, and fundamental. I'll discuss primary and secondary choices here and leave fundamental choices for the next part. Primary choice is something we want more than anything else. When we think about optimal health and the vital habit category of healthy eating versus a banana split, the question is, what's more important to us? The benefits of the long and healthy life or the short-lived satisfaction of eating something that can harm our health? Of course, the prospect of a long, healthy life is far better proposition. But when confronted with a banana split, we sometimes forget our large goal and succumb to temptation. We're only human, but it's also human to become a bit severe and distinguishing the things that support our health from the things that harm us. Secondary choices concerns secondary choice concerns the fact or the act. Wow. Okay, let's start that sentence over. Secondary choice concerns the actions or secondary habits we take to support our primary choice, even if we don't really want to do them. We're motivated to take these actions not because we like doing them, but because we like the results they bring. Dorothy Parker said, "I like having written." In other words, she didn't like the process of writing, but she was willing to do it in order to produce a piece that she liked. That's an interesting concept. Once we know that our primary choice is, it's easy to figure out how to make the secondary choices support our primary choice. If optimal health is our primary choice, what secondary choices do we need to make to support it? These choices fall into two categories. Doing some things we don't like doing. Number one. Not doing some things we like doing. Number two. Many secondary choices aren't things we would normally choose to do. In fact, if it weren't for the primary choice, we wouldn't do them at all. Okay, so here's a funny side note. So we went on a motorcycle trip and just took off to see a new city and ended up in this little town that just had bars for restaurants. So we went into this little bar for a restaurant and they had a shrimp salad, and I thought I should get the shrimp salad. And I thought, oh, a shrimp salad in a bar isn't always good. And, the lettuce isn't good, and I kind of ran through all of that. And I thought, well, I could have a burger and just cut up the burger. And it's like, yeah, I just don't really. And I said, what the heck? I'm going to make the healthy choice. Oh my gosh, it was a perfect leaning green. It had so much shrimp on it. The shrimp was cooked perfectly and they were great big shrimp.
Wow.
It's like, why do I even
Wow.
go through the process of thinking, okay, the healthy thing isn't going to look as good? Because I'll bet you 90% of the time when I make that healthy choice, my food looks so much better than everybody else's, and I feel so much better after the meal than anybody else does. So don't hesitate to make that secondary choice because it definitely feels good. Even if it hadn't been fabulous, I would have felt so much better. So, anyways, let me start that paragraph again. Many secondary choices aren't things we would normally choose to do. In fact, if it weren't for a primary choice, we wouldn't do them at all. Ooh, that's a big one. And yes, this may include the habit of exercise. Some lucky people love to exercise, but many more people don't like to exercise, but do it anyway. Why? To support their higher, more important goal of creating health. So they adopt an exercise program, a secondary choice that falls into the category of doing things we don't like doing, but do anyway to support a higher goal. Now, that doesn't mean we can't try to find exercises that are as fun as possible or make healthy eating easy and enjoyable. In fact, making things easy and enjoyable increases our tendencies to do them and supports our higher goals. In this case, optimal health. Making things easy and enjoyable is a big part of my plan for you. But we must never lie to ourselves about our motivation. The reason we're doing things we don't want to do is because it supports something we really want. The real power of choice is not in doing things that are easy and enjoyable, but in doing things that are strategically critical to our goal. That's important to keep in mind. We make secondary choices to support our goal, not because we particularly like the actions, but because we like the outcomes. Wow, I really need to write this chapter out. This is a great section. To support our goal of optimal health, we may find that we no longer choose to do certain things. Smoking, eating the wrong foods, being a couch potato, and other habits of disease. If you use conflict to stop, the moment the pressure's off, you return to the unhealthy behavior. However, by understanding our primary choice and making strategic secondary choices, we discover a whole new ability to support ourselves. So what goes on in our heads when we're confronted by the need to make a secondary choice, such as eating a banana split? Here's the internal conversation. I like the looks of that banana split. Yes, I could have it. That's right, you could. I want it. Yes, you do. But I also want to support my long-term goal of optimal health. Sure, I could eat that banana split or not. That's true. If I ate it, it would be harder to create my goal. That's true also. What do I want more, the banana split or optimal health? Optimal health. Therefore, while I could have the banana split, I choose not to have it to support my more important goal. That's right. And what goes on outside? Here's the external conversation. Would you like a banana split? No, thanks. I love that. This is so perfect because when I explain the way that I teach stop, challenge, and choose, it's that whole longer internal conversation. But what we see on the outside should look like the look. Would you like a banana split? No, thanks. One thing's clear. You are very aware of what you're doing when you make these choices. And that's part of the power of primary and secondary choices. You're not doing things unconsciously. And I might say you're not doing things unconsciously anymore, because at the foundation of everything we do, it's awareness. We gotta have awareness. We gotta move away from that little animal brain up to our emotional brain and up to our thinking, where we can think about our thoughts. Because I don't know that I ever did that before this program. So, and that's part of the power of primary and secondary choices. You're not doing things unconsciously anymore. Quite the opposite. You're becoming much more tuned in to what you're thinking and doing. If you don't have that type of conversation with yourself, or if you don't recognize or hear awareness, mindfulness, preparedness, when temptation rears its head, you'll eat the banana split and then regret it later when your senses returned. Mindlessness is the enemy, and we will pay lots of attention to helping you make mindfulness a critical habit of health. Crazy. Do you want to say something, Dana?
I'm going to just say mindfulness all day long.
Right, right. It's crazy. And the more that I study these, it's just, we've got to have mindfulness, awareness, and preparedness. Everything goes back to that, and we just don't. So, okay, we've got two sidebars that I'm going to read really fast. Primary choice is about deciding that we want one thing, optimal health, for example, more than something else. Secondary choice is about taking the daily actions that support our primary choice. For example, choosing not to have a banana split. Dr. A says, to support our primary goal, optimal health, we do things we wouldn't otherwise do, like exercising or eating right. We may not always like doing these things, but we like where they take us. So, the key to discipline. Throughout your life, you face situations that demand a choice. Even by not choosing, you've made a choice. But the choice not to choose usually isn't in your own best interest. Knowing how to determine what's primary and therefore what's secondary enables you to rise above any situation, however hard, to support your greater good. It's in the relationship between the primary and the secondary choice that the key to discipline is found. Once you know how to manage this relationship, you'll be able to accomplish more than you ever thought possible. Now that you are both ready to change and know why you want to change, let's start laying out your future and setting in place the process to begin your journey. In the next part, we'll organize your life around optimal health and all the rewards it brings. And then we have a transformation story by Adam Eccles. I'm creating long-term health, and it's actually helped me to, again, be the best dad that I can. I watched my mom have a heart attack at 50, and inside I was thinking, well, what's going to happen to me when I'm 50? Getting myself healthy allowed me the opportunity to actually go out there and be physically fit and be able to be with my kids. I take them on hiking trips, we go backpacking, we go swimming. I'll tell you what, before the program, for many, many years, I would go to the swimming pool and be that guy in the pool with a shirt on. I was embarrassed, seriously embarrassed and ashamed that I had to wear a shirt in the pool. Now I'm very comfortable going out and spending time out in the sun. It's an amazing thing to not have to worry about it at this point. The habits of health have really given me long-term health, and it's actually helped me to be the best dad that I can be. All right, that is it for this.